Hey guys, welcome to another video tutorial. Today we're going to be making a variation half puff stitch beanie. So for this tutorial I'm going to be using loops and thread yarn, and I'm going to use 3 colors, so I need a total of 6 skeins, and that's 2 skeins per color. You can do it all in one color if you want to, but you're going to be crocheting with 2 skeins simultaneously, so you'll need at least 2, and a G hook, and that's a 4.25 millimeter hook. Let's get started. So to start, I'm going to use 2 of my skeins simultaneously, so I'm going with the lavender color, and I'm going to start with a slip knot. So I wrap the yarn around my fingers, insert the hook through the loop, grab the yarn, pull through, and then just tighten it. And we're going to start with a nice long chain. We need the chain to be the circumference of our head, so I need a chain that's typically about 22 inches. So I'm just going to start with about 82, like about a chain of 82 stitches, and then we'll pull out our measuring tape and measure it. So if you need to make this in a different size, I do have sizing options. Look for them in the description box below. I've got sizing options for babies all the way up to adults. So I've made about 89 stitches for my chain, and now I just have to measure it. So for me that was 22 inches. So the size might depend also on the tension that you're using. So if you're making a really tight chain, you might need a few more stitches to make it the length that you need. So for our next row, I chain 1, and I'm going to go to the second stitch for my hook, and I'm just going to start to single crochet. So I'm going to single crochet in every one of the stitches until I get to the end of my chain. So I've reached the end of the chain, and I made a single crochet in every stitch. And for our next row, we're going to chain 2, turn our work around, and in the second stitch from the hook, so not this first one, but this second one, we're going to make a half puff stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, and then yarn over and pull through, and then we're going to yarn over again, insert our hook through the same stitch, yarn over and pull through. And now we just yarn over and pull through all of our stitches. So let's do it again. In the next stitch, yarn over, insert, yarn over, insert, yarn over, and then we yarn over and pull through all of our loops. And that's what I call a half puff stitch. So we're going to be needing to, we have to make a half puff stitch in every one of the stitches of this row. So I've reached the end of the row, and I have this last stitch, and I'm just going to make my half puff stitch in my very last stitch of the row. And to finish it off, we just yarn over, pull through all of them, and then I chain 1. So that is our row. So for the next one, we're going to chain 1 more, turn our work around, and I'm just going to single crochet starting in the very first stitch of the row. I'm just going to single crochet 1 in every stitch all the way to the end of the row. So I have to grab more yarn here. So I'll work my way to the end of the row, and I'll see you there. So I have finished my row of single crochets, and now for our next one, we chain 2, turn our work around, and we're just going to work a row of double crochets. So starting with the very first stitch right next to our chain, we're just going to start with our first double crochet, and go into the next stitch and double crochet, and in the one after that, we double crochet again. So I'm just going to do it a little bit slower in case someone needs to see how to double crochet. We'll do another slow one. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through the stitch, and then we yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So just make a double crochet until you get to the end of the row. So I finished my row of double crochets, and now we're going to chain 2, turn our work around, and starting in this very first stitch, we're just going to make another row of half puff stitch. So pull through all of them, and go into our next stitch and make another half puff stitch. And we're just going to keep crocheting one of these in every one of the stitches until we get to the end of the row. So I made a couple of rows here, and this is where we're going to start repeating our pattern. So our pattern consists of 3 rows, and it is a row of half puff stitches, and then a row of single crochet, a row of double crochet, and then we start again. Half puff, single crochet, double crochet. We're just going to repeat this row, or we're going to repeat these rows until you get the height that you want for your beanie. So I'm going to make it about 7.5 to 8 inches, and then I'll start working on the brim. So just keep working these same 3 rows until you get the height you want. So there we go. I finished the length of, or the height that I want for my beanie. And now I'm going to start making the brim. So for that, I decided to switch color. Now you don't have to switch color, you can make it all in the same color. But if you're going to switch color, grab 2 threads of the yarn that you're going to use, pull it through the stitch that you have, so the little chain you have, and then we're going to chain 2. So the first chain I use all my threads, and I just kind of chain through all of them. And for my second chain, I just use the thread that I'm going to be working with. So we'll get that nice and tightened. And to start with my brim, I'm just going to make a double crochet in every stitch of the row, starting with the very first stitch, the one that's right next to our chain. So I'll just work a double crochet in each of these. So for a double crochet, just yarn over, insert your hook through your stitch, yarn over again, pull through your stitch. And now you have your 3 loops, so yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So work a double crochet in every stitch of the row. So I've reached the end of my row, and now I'm going to chain 2. And this is the row I'm going to repeat over and over again. So let's turn our work around, and I'm just going to start working front and back post double crochets. So in this first post, I'm just going to yarn over, insert my hook, and go through the back of the post and push the post forward. That's a front post double crochet. And now I just pull my yarn through and finish it off like I would a normal double crochet. And in my next stitch, I yarn over and go in from behind the hook, or behind the post, and push the post back. So I've made a back post double crochet, and I yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and now we make another front post double crochet. So we pull the post forward and finish our double crochet. In the next one, we make a back post, so we push our post backward and finish our double crochet. So we're just going to keep alternating between front and back post double crochets until we get to the end of the row. So I'm just going to make another couple stitches, and I'm going to pretend I've reached the end of the row so I can show you how to make the remaining rows for your brim. So let's pretend I just finished my row. So I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to turn my work around. And you're going to crochet a front post double crochet for every front post double crochet and a back post for every back post double crochet. So see how we have our front post ones and our back post crochets clearly visible? We're going to need to use these. So we're going to yarn over, and this first one is a back post double crochet, so we'll make another back post double crochet. And this next one is a front post, so we'll work a front post double crochet, and then another back post. I should probably show you too. When you pull this a little bit, you're going to see these top squares and the bottom squares. You want to work in the top squares, right in here. That way you can make your work actually extend and get longer. So I'll finish this row, and this is the same row that we're going to keep repeating over and over. And this is what's going to create your ribbed look, and it's going to give your beanie a brim. So I'll finish my last post. And in this space that's between the last post and your chain, there's a little space over here. You're going to make a double crochet, and that's how you're going to finish every one of your rows. And now I'll chain 2, turn my work around, and repeat this same row. I want it to be nice and long, so I'm going to make maybe about 3 inches, and then at some point I'm going to switch to this gray color. So to switch, just go back to when I switched to the white yarn, and you're going to do the same thing to switch color. So I'll keep working this until I have my brim. So I worked several rows in white, and then I did a couple of rows in the gray just to add a little more color to my beanie. And we just have to measure it now to make sure that it is the height that I need it to be. So I want this to be a little bit more of a slouchy beanie. So just over 10 inches is perfect for my slouchy beanie. So now we have to decide what side we want on the outside. So this is one of the sides. And if I flip this over, you'll see that the stitching looks a little different. So this is the part that I want on the outside. So I'm going to flip everything. I'm going to fold it with that side in. And that way when I sew my beanie together and I flip it right side out, this part will be in the back. So just align the edges of your beanie, and I'm going to use a needle this time. Normally I just crochet this, but I'm just going to get my needle and grab a thread of yarn, and I'm just going to stitch this all up. So I'll fast forward through all of this stitching here in a minute so that you don't have to see me stitching all of it. But I just start not at the very end. I start maybe about a stitch or two a little more towards the inside, and then go back to the very first stitch. That way I can make a knot in my yarn and then hide my extra thread, which I'll be weaving in when I am done sewing. So I'll finish up my knot, and now I decided I think I'm just going to try to sew this in. So just pick however it is that you want to stitch this closed and go with that stitch until you get to the end of the row. So it's going to be the very top part of the beanie, and then I'll show you how to close up the top part of the beanie. So I'll keep sewing here, and I'll see you here in a bit. So I've got the last couple stitches left, and I will be getting to the top of the beanie, which we're going to be sewing shut. At this point, I really should have just made a knot. It makes it a lot easier because you have to tighten the top part of the beanie. So when you get to here, knot your yarn or your thread, whatever it is you're using, and that will make this next part a lot easier, which I didn't do. So for this top part, you're just going to go in and out like so, because we're going to be tightening it. So if you don't have a whole lot of thread left at this point, don't worry. You can just tighten it as you go, and it'll start to close up your beanie. See, that's why you should have made a knot. All right. I'm going to have to keep adjusting this a few times, so remember the knot, folks. So I'm just going to keep sewing this back and forth until I get to the very end, so I'll just fast forward through all of that, and then I'll show you how to attach the pom-pom. I worked my way around the whole top of the beanie, and now I'm just tightening this up. So I thought I'd slow down here and show you what else to do. So tighten this up nice and tight, and then I'm going to hold all of the top of the beanie just bunched up, and just kind of go through with your needle and just thread through all the way across. I typically go in about a circle pattern or a star pattern, if you want to call it that way, and I just now we're sewing right over the top of the beanie, and that will just help me keep the beanie nice and closed. So I'll show you a couple more stitches, and then we can move on to pom-pom attachment. But that way you can make sure that your beanie is nice and tightly closed up. So we're going to want to flip our beanie now right side out. So I'm just going to insert my needle, and I'm using a tapestry needle because it's nice and blunt. But just pull that through and then flip your beanie right side out. There we go. And there's my line where I stitched everything up. Excellent. Okay, so using the same thread, because I cut a big piece of thread, but you can use a new one if you need to, I'm just going to attach my pom-pom. I do have a tutorial for these faux fur pom-poms as well as the yarn pom-poms. I'll link those in the description below. I'll also put the little suggestion up on top. So to sew this on, I just used, since I was using the same thread, I just kind of insert it into the pom-pom. Try to find the part where it's closed up. So where you closed up where you did all the stitching to close up your pom-pom, that's what I like to attach here so that I can hide all of that stitching on the inside of, like where it's attached to the beanie. So I just stitch on the pom-pom and then stitch through the beanie and then go through the pom-pom. There we go. And then through the beanie. So try to keep your stitching as close to the top of the beanie as you can, otherwise you're going to smash your pom-pom down. So I kind of want it to be nice and fluffy. So I'll keep attaching this, and that's it. That's all you need to do to make this beanie. So if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them down in the comments section below. I will link the pattern to this beanie. It's going to be on my blog, and that's modebespoke.blogspot.com. You can follow me on Instagram. I am at mode.bespoke. Give the video a like if you like this kind of video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can see all kinds of different crochet projects I post at least once weekly. Thanks for watching.